The notification lit up my phone screen while I was standing at the kitchen sink, my hands submerged in dishwater. Tuesday evening, November 19th. 23 days before what would have been Margaret's and my 43rd anniversary. 3 years and 8 months since I'd last heard her laugh. I dried my hands on the towel hanging from the oven door and picked up the phone. A text from Vanessa, my daughter. She lived 4 blocks away with her husband Patrick and their 2 boys, 8 and 11. We used to see each other every week. Used to. Dad, about Christmas. Patrick's parents are hosting this year at their place in Whistler. They rented a big cabin. Just immediate family, you know? His siblings and their kids. It'll be tight for space. You understand. I read it twice. Then a third time. Just immediate family. I set the phone down on the counter. Went back to the dishes. Picked up a plate, rinsed it, set it in the rack. My daughter was 41 years old. Her mother had been dead for 3 years, and apparently I wasn't immediate family anymore. The thing is, I did understand. I understood perfectly. I finished the dishes, made myself a cup of tea, sat at the kitchen table in the chair that used to be Margaret's favorite because it faced the window. The November rain streaked down the glass. Vancouver had been gray for 2 weeks straight. I picked up my phone and typed a response. That sounds nice. Have a wonderful time. I didn't add anything else. Didn't ask about coming by on Boxing Day. Didn't suggest an alternative. Just sent it. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Thanks, Dad. We'll see you soon. Love you. I put the phone face down on the table. Here's what nobody tells you about grief. The first year, everyone rallies. Casseroles appear at your door. People check in. Your children call frequently, worried you can't manage. The second year, life returns to normal for everyone except you. By the third year, you're supposed to be fine. And if you're not fine, well, that's uncomfortable for people. Margaret died on March 4th, 2022. Stroke. She was 63. We'd been planning a trip to Prince Edward Island for that summer. She'd never seen the red beaches. We had the ferry tickets printed and everything. Vanessa had been devastated. She'd taken 2 weeks off work, practically moved into our house those first months. She'd been the one who helped me sort through Margaret's clothes, who sat with me when I couldn't sleep, who made sure I ate. But somewhere in year 2, things shifted. Vanessa got busy. The boys had hockey, soccer, tutoring. Patrick got a promotion that required more travel. Our weekly dinners became bi-weekly, then monthly, then let's try to find a time that works. And when I mentioned, carefully, that I'd started having coffee sometimes with a woman named Helen from my book club, Vanessa's face had done something complicated. Already? She'd asked. It's been 2 years, I'd said. I know, but Mom wouldn't want you to rush into anything. How she knew what her dead mother would want, I didn't ask. That conversation had been 8 months ago. Since then, Vanessa's texts came less frequently. She stopped asking about Helen, stopped asking about much of anything, really. And now this. Christmas. Just immediate family. I sat at that table until the tea went cold. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my son. Thomas lived in Toronto. He was 37, worked in software development, had a boyfriend named Raj. He called me every Sunday morning, regular as clockwork. Had done so since Margaret died. Never missed once. Dad? He picked up on the second ring. Everything okay? Everything's fine, I said. I got a text from your sister. About Christmas? You knew? He sighed. She told me last week. Asked if I thought you'd be upset. What did you say? I told her she was being ridiculous. You're our father. Of course you should be included. He paused. She said something about it being complicated with Helen. Helen and I have coffee. Occasionally dinner. We're friends. I know that. Vanessa knows that too. She's just... He trailed off. Just what? She's scared. I think. Of change. Of losing more than she already has. It doesn't excuse it, but that's my guess. After we hung up, I sat there in the dark for a while. The rain had stopped. The streetlights made orange pools on the wet pavement outside. Then I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Helen's number. Helen Morrison was 67. Her husband had died 4 years earlier. Cancer. She had kind eyes and laugh lines, and she wore purple reading glasses that she was constantly losing. We'd met at a neighborhood book club that met at the library every third Thursday. We'd struck up a conversation about Alice Munro. 6 months ago, we'd started having coffee after the meetings. She answered on the third ring. Robert, this is a nice surprise. Helen, I have a strange question. What are you doing for Christmas? There was a pause. Well, my daughter Lindsay and her family usually come here. Why? Would you consider doing something different this year? Another pause. I'm listening. So I told her about Vanessa's text, about just immediate family, about 3 Christmases alone in this house, with Margaret's absence louder than any words could be. What did you have in mind? Helen asked, and there was something in her voice, something warm and slightly mischievous. I don't know yet, I admitted, but something that isn't sitting here pretending I'm fine with being uninvited to my daughter's life. Helen was quiet for a moment. Then she said, my cousin owns a bed and breakfast on Vancouver Island, near Tofino. She's always asking me to visit. What if we spent Christmas there? Really do it properly. Full turkey dinner, walks on the beach, the whole thing. Would your daughter mind? Lindsay's 34 years old and perfectly capable of hosting her own Christmas. And honestly, she's been telling me for 2 years I need to get out more. This will thrill her. Are you sure? Robert, I've spent 3 Christmases trying to fill the space where Jim used to be. Maybe it's time to try something different. For both of us. We made the arrangements over the next week. Helen's cousin Rachel was delighted to have us. She had a beautiful suite available, 2 bedrooms with a shared living room overlooking the ocean. She promised a full Christmas dinner, local ingredients, nothing fancy, but everything delicious. I told Thomas. He approved immediately and sent me a $100 gift card for a nice restaurant in Tofino. You deserve this, Dad. He'd texted. Have the best time. I didn't tell Vanessa. On December 22nd, Helen and I took the ferry from Vancouver to Nanaimo, then drove the winding road across the island to the west coast. The B&B was exactly as Rachel had described it, a renovated craftsman house perched on a bluff with enormous windows facing the Pacific. Our suite had a fireplace, comfortable chairs, and shelves full of books. Christmas morning was clear and cold. Helen and I walked on Long Beach before breakfast, the sand firm under our feet, the waves rolling in from thousands of miles away. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. Rachel served dinner at 2 o'clock. Besides us, there was a retired couple from Seattle and a young family from Calgary. We pulled crackers, wore paper crowns, told terrible jokes. Helen laughed so hard at one point that tears ran down her face. After dinner, I stepped outside to get some air. The sun was starting to set, turning the sky orange and pink. I took out my phone and snapped a photo. The ocean, the sunset, the B&B with its warm lights. On impulse, I posted it to Facebook. I rarely used the platform, but Margaret had set up an account for me years ago, and I'd kept it mostly to see photos of the grandkids. I wrote, Christmas on Vancouver Island with a dear friend, grateful for new traditions and the kindness of strangers who become family. Merry Christmas to all. I didn't think much of it. Pocketed my phone and went back inside. Helen and I played Scrabble with the Seattle couple that evening. She won, as she usually did. We had tea and shortbread by the fire. At some point, I checked my phone to see if Thomas had responded to the text I'd sent him earlier. Instead, I had 14 missed calls from Vanessa, 6 voicemails, 12 text messages. The first text, Dad, where are you? The second, is that woman Helen? Are you on vacation with her? Third, why didn't you tell me? Fourth, we're supposed to see you on Boxing Day. You're just gone? They escalated from there. The voicemails I didn't listen to. I could imagine the content well enough. Helen noticed my expression. Everything all right? My daughter saw the photo. Ah. She set down her tea. How did she react? About as well as you'd expect. Do you want to call her back? I thought about it. About 3 years of slowly being edged out of Vanessa's life. About Christmas invitations that came with caveats. About just immediate family as if I was something else now, something lesser. No, I said. I don't think I do. The calls continued the next day. Boxing Day. The day I was apparently supposed to appear at Vanessa's house for leftover turkey and whatever guilt-laden conversation she had planned. Instead, Helen and I drove to Ucluelet. We had lunch at a restaurant overlooking the harbor, watched fishing boats come and go. We visited the Wild Pacific Trail, walked through ancient forest to viewpoints over the ocean. We didn't talk about Vanessa, or about Jim, or about Margaret. We talked about books and travel, and whether the Canucks had any hope this season. That evening, back at the B&B, I finally listened to one of Vanessa's voicemails. "Dad, please call me back. I'm worried about you. Patrick says I'm overreacting, but I don't understand why you didn't tell me you were going away. Who is this woman? Are you serious about her? You barely knew her. And Mom's only been gone 3 years. Don't you think this is fast? What are people going to say? Please call me. We need to talk about this." I deleted the message. Helen found me sitting by the fire. She didn't ask what the voicemail said, just sat in the chair next to mine. "You know what Jim used to say?" she asked after a while. "He said grief turns some people inward and other people controlling, that the ones who can't process their own loss try to manage everyone else's instead. Sounds like Jim was a wise man. He had his moments." She smiled. "Lindsay went through something similar after he died. Got very concerned about my finances, my health, who I was spending time with. Took her about a year to realize she was trying to protect herself from more loss by controlling everything she could. Once she figured that out, things got better. How did she figure it out? Therapy. And I set some boundaries. Told her I loved her, but I was still capable of making my own decisions." Helen looked at me. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. We stayed on the island until December 28th. On our last morning, Rachel made us breakfast and packed us sandwiches for the drive. "You two are welcome back any time," she said, hugging us both. "It's been lovely having you." The drive back was quiet, comfortable. Helen dozed a bit in the passenger seat. I thought about what waited for me back in Vancouver, the messages I'd been ignoring, the conversation I'd eventually need to have. I dropped Helen at her house first. She lived in Kitsilano, in a blue bungalow, with a garden that she was constantly worried about. "Thank you for this, Robert," she said before getting out. "I mean it. This was the best Christmas I've had in years. Thank you for saying yes, for understanding why I needed to do this." She squeezed my hand. "Call me if you need anything, even if it's just to talk." My house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. I'd left a lamp on a timer, so the living room glowed dimly through the window. Margaret had always insisted on the timer. "So the house looks lived in," she'd say. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. The thermostat set to 15 degrees. The plants watered by my neighbor's teenage daughter, who I'd paid $20. The mail piled on the table by the door. I made a cup of tea, sat in Margaret's chair by the window, looked out at the street. Then I picked up my phone and called Vanessa. She answered immediately. "Dad." "Hello, Vanessa. Where have you been? I've been calling for days." "I know. I got your messages. And you didn't think to call back? Do you know how worried I've been?" "I was on Vancouver Island," I said calmly, "with Helen. We spent Christmas at a bed and breakfast in Tofino." Silence. "Then why didn't you tell me? You told me you were spending Christmas at Patrick's parents' place." "Just immediate family. I made other plans. I meant you could come on Boxing Day." "You didn't invite me to Boxing Day, Vanessa. You said we'd see each other soon. That's not an invitation. That's a dismissal. That's not fair. You're twisting my words." "Am I?" I kept my voice level. "Tell me, when was the last time you invited me to dinner? When was the last time you asked how I was doing, really doing, not just as a formality?" "Dad, that's not I've been busy." "I know you've been busy. I know you have the boys and Patrick's work and your own job. I understand all of that. What I don't understand is when I stop being part of your immediate family." I could hear her breathing on the other end. "That's not what I meant." "What did you mean?" She stopped, started again. "Patrick's parents invited us. All of us. The whole family. They rented this big place. And I didn't think to ask if you could come too because Helen would want to come. Obviously. And I don't know her. And it felt awkward. And Christmas is already complicated enough without Mom there. And adding a stranger just felt like too much." There it was. Finally. "Helen isn't a stranger to me," I said. "She's a friend. A good friend. Someone who makes me laugh, who I can talk to, who understands what it's like to lose the person you built your life around. But it's only been 3 years. 3 years, 8 months, and 24 days, I said. "I'm not counting, but I know. Every morning I wake up and she's not there. Every night I go to bed alone. Every meal, every show on TV, every book I read, there's this space where she used to be. And Helen doesn't fill that space. Nobody could. But she makes it bearable. She makes me remember that life isn't over just because Margaret is gone. Vanessa was crying now. I could hear it. I miss her too, Dad. I know you do. And seeing you with someone else, it just feels wrong. It feels like forgetting her. Vanessa, I will never forget your mother. She was my wife for 42 years. She's part of every good thing I ever did, every good memory I have. But she's gone, and I'm not. And I have to decide what to do with the time I have left. I just don't want you to get hurt. By Helen? Or by someone else? She didn't answer. Your mother would want me to be happy, I said. She told me so, actually. In the hospital, the day before she died, she made me promise I wouldn't sit around waiting to die too. She said, Robert, you have too much life left to spend it alone. She said that? She did. And I tried to honor that. I tried to be patient while you adjusted. But Vanessa, you've spent 3 years avoiding the fact that I'm moving forward. And I can't keep waiting for your permission to live my life. There was a long silence. Then she said, very quietly, I'm sorry. I know. No, I mean it. I'm sorry. You're right. I've been awful. I kept meaning to have you over, and then time would pass, and it felt weird, and I didn't know how to fix it, so I just avoided it. Avoided you. And that's not fair. No, I agreed. It's not. Are you going to forgive me? I thought about that. About easy forgiveness and boundaries and what Margaret would say. I'm going to need you to show me that things will be different, I said. I need to know that I'm still your father. Still part of your family. Still someone you want in your life. Not just when it's convenient. Not just when there's no one else around. I do want you in my life. I swear. I've just been scared, I guess, of everything changing. Of losing more than I already have. Your brother said something similar. Thomas? You talked to Thomas about this? I did. What did he say? That you were being ridiculous. In slightly more diplomatic terms. She laughed. Watery, but genuine. That sounds like Thomas. He's usually right about these things. I know. She took a breath. Can I ask you something? Of course. Are you in love with Helen? I thought about that. About coffee at the book club and walks on the beach and Scrabble by the fire. No, I said. Not in love, but I care about her. She's important to me. And I need you to respect that. Even if it's hard for me, especially if it's hard for you. Because that's what love is, Vanessa. It's wanting someone else's happiness, even when it's uncomfortable for you. Another long silence. Can I come over tomorrow? She asked. I'll bring the boys. We'll take you to dinner or something. My treat. What about Patrick? Patrick will come too. And Dad? Can you bring Helen, if she's free? I'd like to meet her. Properly. Something loosened in my chest. I'll ask her. Okay, good. That's good. After we hung up, I sat there for a while. The house was quiet, cold, because I hadn't turned the heat back up yet. Outside, it had started to rain again. I called Helen. How did it go? She asked. Better than expected. She apologized. She wants to have dinner tomorrow. All of us, including you. Really? Really. If you're comfortable with that, of course I am. Though I should warn you, I'm nervous. Meeting the daughter. She's nervous too. That should make it interesting. Helen laughed. This is good, Robert. This is really good. Yeah, I said. It is. Dinner the next night was at a restaurant near Granville Island. Vanessa had chosen it, somewhere neutral, not too loud. She arrived early. I could tell because she and Patrick and the boys were already seated when Helen and I walked in. Vanessa stood up immediately. She looked nervous, guilty, hopeful. Dad, she said. Then, turning to Helen, Mrs. Morrison, thank you for coming. Please, call me Helen. And thank you for having me. We sat. Ordered drinks. The boys, Cooper and Ethan, were unusually quiet, picking at the breadbasket. Patrick made small talk about traffic. Vanessa couldn't stop looking at me, then at Helen, then back at me. Finally, Helen said, Vanessa, I want you to know something. I'm not trying to replace your mother. I couldn't, even if I wanted to. From everything your father has told me, she was an extraordinary woman. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. She was. I lost my husband 4 years ago. Cancer. And I know what it's like to watch someone you love forget what it means to be alive. Your father hasn't forgotten. He's grieving. Yes, he always will be. But he's also still here. Still capable of joy and friendship and new experiences. That's rare, and it's something to be celebrated, not feared. Vanessa nodded, wiping her eyes. I know. I do know that. I've just been scared, Helen finished. I understand. So has my daughter. But here's what I learned. Holding on too tight doesn't keep people safe. It just makes them feel trapped. Patrick reached over and took Vanessa's hand. The boys had stopped pretending to eat bread and were watching the adults with wide eyes. I'm going to try, Vanessa said, looking at me. To be better, to include you more, both of you. If that's okay, more than okay, I said. The rest of the dinner was easier. We talked about the boys' hockey season, about Helen's garden and her constant battle with raccoons, about Thomas and Raj's plan to visit in March. Cooper told a long, rambling story about his science project. Ethan showed us a card trick. At one point, Vanessa leaned over to me and whispered, "She's nice, Dad. I like her." "I'm glad," I whispered back. As we were leaving, Vanessa hugged me tight. "I'm sorry," she said again, "for all of it, for making you feel like you weren't part of the family." "We're okay," I told her. "We're going to be okay." And we were. Not perfectly. Vanessa still had moments of discomfort when Helen was around. Still said things occasionally that revealed her struggle to accept this new version of our family. But she tried. She invited us both to Cooper's hockey games. She asked Helen's advice about her garden. She called me more often. In February, on what would have been my 43rd anniversary, I visited Margaret's grave. I brought daffodils, her favorite. Helen had offered to come with me, but I'd told her I needed to go alone. I stood there in the cold, looking at her name carved in granite. Margaret Ann Chen, 1959 to 2022. Beloved wife, mother, friend. "I'm doing okay, Margie," I said out loud, not caring if anyone heard. Better than okay, actually. Vanessa and I are working things out. Thomas is good. The grandkids are growing like weeds. And I met someone. You'd like her. She's smart and funny, and she beats me at Scrabble every time. Nothing romantic, not like us. But she's a good friend. She makes me laugh. And you told me to find that, remember? You told me not to be alone. The wind rustled through the trees. A crow called from somewhere nearby. "I miss you," I said. "Every day. But I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm actually living. And I think you'd be proud of that." I stood there a while longer. Then I put my hand on the cold stone, said goodbye, and walked back to my car. Helen was waiting at my house when I got back. She'd let herself in with the spare key I'd given her. She'd made tea and set out cookies. "How was it?" she asked. "Good. Sad, but good." "Want to talk about it?" "Not really, but thank you." We drank our tea, ate cookies. Helen told me about her daughter's latest drama at work. I half listened, mostly just grateful for the sound of another human voice in this house that had been too quiet for too long. Later, after Helen had gone home, I thought about everything that had happened since that November text, about just immediate family and what that phrase really meant, about grief and boundaries and the courage it takes to choose happiness when it would be easier to choose familiar pain. Vanessa had learned something important, that love means letting people grow, even in directions you didn't expect. That parents don't stop being people just because they're parents. That moving forward isn't betrayal. I'd learned something too, that I deserved to be treated with dignity and respect, even by people I loved. That saying no to being diminished wasn't selfish. That building a new life didn't erase the old one. And maybe that's the lesson worth remembering. When someone makes you feel like an obligation, like an inconvenience, like something less than immediate family, you're allowed to choose yourself. You're allowed to find people who celebrate your presence instead of tolerating it. You're allowed to build new traditions, new connections, new versions of family that include everyone who truly wants to be there. Because immediate family isn't about biology or legal ties. It's about who shows up, who makes space for you, who celebrates your joy instead of fearing your growth. And sometimes, the family you choose is more immediate than the one you were born into.